What do you think about cancelling cancel culture? Let's just say I don't think the YouTube community, for instance, or an online audience is the best arbiter of justice. I think there are the right people with specialist qualifications and training and genuine experience who are legitimately able to uphold the definition of justice. I think the problem is that a lot of the culture which is being cancelled is culture insofar as it is encompassed by money. It's all about money. It's all about a career and deals and sponsorships and branding and selling things to viewers, etc. And so I think that cancelling infers sort of a moral reckoning with something. And I think it's very difficult for morality and money to play on the same field, as it were. So personally, I am not a fan of cancel culture. I think a lot of the obsession around cancel culture is very concentrated in more affluent and wealthy societies, and also in this age in which we are increasingly not wanting to address or deal with the real serious issues of the world beyond our modern world and context, obsessively engaging and being obsessively involved in the tea and the drama and the worlds of influencers and the rich and famous online, and adding sort of our moral compass, as it were, to their lives and what they're doing and their behavior. It's an easy, digestible distraction from what's really going on in the world, and I'm not necessarily saying that audiences are to blame for this at all. I just think that the world is a very, very dark place, and we are increasingly becoming aware of that because of technology, because of the internet. So yes, I think that we should cancel culture. I don't think we really need to. I think it just cancels itself because it just sort of goes in a bit of a loop. But yes, I'm definitely not at the front of the mob or the crowd or whatever trying to get somebody deplatformed or taken off the internet. Yes, no. Not a question, and it's a bit hard to word it properly, but your face reminds me of Grimes for some reason. Maybe it's because of the bone structure, the anatomy, I do not know, especially from the nose down. You're both super cute. Also, I love your voice. Thank you very much, Maria. I do take that as a compliment, and I do not think that that is terribly worded at all. I love Grimes, I really do. I find her a very fascinating individual, particularly considering her relationship with Elon Musk and simultaneously being a very overt communist. So yes, I'm quite flattered by that. Thank you very much. I mean, I never thought that I had anything in common with her insofar as how she looks, but I definitely do think that we have commonalities when it comes to our diets because they are tragic.
So I actually have these things that I keep by the bed called Go Cubes that are like caffeinated cubes. It's like broccoli, like what the It's like actually disgusting. I don't know how anyone eats it. I'm really into this weird recipe I made called sludge. You take like a ton of veganese and take a ton of sriracha and then just like cut up. Weirdly, celery tastes really good in this. And you throw it all in and you just make this sludge, like this couscous sludge that's like spicy and got veganese. I was only eating spaghetti for like a year or 2 years. I only ate spaghetti.
Ash Talks a Lot, who I notice also has a YouTube channel. I very much enjoyed your video about Albert Camus, asks, do you follow any philosophical views? And if so, which ones? I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a philosophical view, but more so a method or an approach to existence in general. I am very interested in hermeneutics. I'm not sure what you'd call somebody who advocates for hermeneutics and is very fascinated by it. A hermeneuticist. I read, for instance, a lot of Hans-Georges Gadamer. I read Augustine because I find sort of the tradition of Christian hermeneutics influencing now our hermeneutics in just general philosophical senses to be very, very interesting. Although Gadamer is incredibly flawed, I am a proponent of Gadamer, and I would say that I am very much invested in what he has written and had to say, especially in Truth and Method. Ash Talks a Lot also asks, what do you use to edit your videos and the filters? Goodness, I use quite a few things actually. In order to sort of put my entire video together, broadly speaking, I use Final Cut Pro. I edit on a MacBook. I basically knew that I wanted to make YouTube videos. I decided that I wanted to start making YouTube videos, and a consequence of that was that I then wrote a list of everything that I would need. I saved up for about a year, and then I was able to sort of tick things off, and I started making YouTube videos once I got my phone, because it may surprise you, but I did not have a phone at all. I'm very late to that party, so this is my first phone, and I went all out. So yes, I got my phone, I got my MacBook, I got a light fixture thing, and yes, and that was how I was able to start making videos. So yes, and I also made sure that I could pay for Final Cut Pro. I now, however, also use Canva. I discovered Canva very recently, and I use that. I also dip into, on my phone at least, this app called Fonto, which has numerous different fonts, which are quite interesting and amusing to play around with. But I am more so reliant on Canva now, because there's just so many more options and it's far more entertaining. I also use, for stock video that I sort of put over when I'm talking and I'm sort of rambling on, or like, I don't know, picking my nose, I use stock footage from a website called Storyblocks. I also get music from there. It's quite a nice archive of music. Filters, I just play around on Final Cut Pro, especially with the different video effects. I will just play around with mainly Super 8mm, with adding grain over something. For my thumbnails, I use Visco as well. This one's a bit iffy and not needed in a video, so you can cut it off. Would you be willing to collaborate / work with other YouTubers that fit your style? My instinct is to say yes, I would. But on reflection, considering what I've seen on YouTube, I sometimes think collaborations are not a good idea. It sort of brings the parasocial into reality, and reality often is not as scenic as the parasocial. I can just think of various dramas that have happened in the YouTube community, at least in the drama community and commentary community. Most recently, Angelica Oles and Smokey Glow, when they did a collaboration. So I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure how good an idea that is. I'm definitely not terribly exclusive about my channel. I happily will have my friend come onto my channel and have a discussion with me, and now that I'm monetized, when he comes on to my channel, we just split whatever I make on that video 50-50. So money isn't the issue, it's more so just the reality of collaborating with someone and what that means, and what that also means, I think, importantly, to an audience. What would my audience think about that? What do my audience think about this individual? Is it the kind of content that my audience would like to see? So that would be important to me. That would be something that I'd definitely consider. But yes, my immediate instinct is to say yes, I'd be happy to collaborate with somebody if they fit my style, if they feel that I can be of use to their style. Camilla asks, I do like your glasses, by the way. I've never been able to get glasses that fit me correctly, so I wear contact lenses, which unfortunately drain all the moisture from my eyes, and as a consequence I'm always exhausted. So I always admire people who are able to find glasses that suit them, and your glasses most definitely suit you very, very well indeed. Do you think YouTube creators should explicitly state boundaries with their audience, especially if their audience are children? Very interesting question, and I do think so. I think boundaries are very important to uphold. I think they are very, however, difficult to uphold, especially when it comes to the internet, in which you feel that there is inadvertently a boundary between you and your audience because everything is happening online. I think a YouTuber who has demonstrated this very well, and who demonstrated well because she was initially not terribly explicit about boundaries, and as a consequence was exposed to some very lucrative individuals, is Kelly Stamps. I think she did that very well, in that she has really maintained a very good relationship with her subscribers and her base. I think when it comes to children, it's a different story, because I think children are inevitably very impressionable and also depend quite heavily on these relationships, especially considering that a lot of children now have grown up with the internet, and so it's just an everyday thing. With kids, yes, it is incredibly important, very, very important. I can't stress it enough, considering all the horrendous and vile stories that are coming out of influencers actually communicating directly with their very young underage subscribers and sending them absolutely revolting messages and gifts and inviting them to locations to meet for God knows what. It's just, yes, I think there is a responsibility on that part. I think if you're making content for children and for young audiences, you have a moral obligation that is very much dependent on you relative to if you have an audience that is older. I know that the majority of my audience are of age, of 18 and above. So I personally don't feel as much of a obligation to be a moral exemplar for my audience. That sounds quite bad to say, but nonetheless. Angela asks, what did you study at university and how was your experience? Right. So this is something that I have not wanted to talk about, which is one of the reasons why I don't like to be very personal. But you know what, we need to just get this over and done with. This is what this video is mainly about. This is mainly so that I can just answer these questions, get it over and done with, and move on to other things that don't involve me at all personally. So, basically, societally speaking, I am a failure. I have failed. And you know what? That's fine. I really don't care, as long as I can find a semblance of happiness in something. And at the moment, I don't have that, and so that's why I don't feel fine about it. Long story short, I studied a degree called Human, Social and Political Sciences, and I specialized in political science and economics, primarily the history of political thought and the history of economics and economic philosophy. I studied in the UK and I studied at Cambridge University. My experience was academically a very negative one. I don't blame the institution for this. I would say, firstly, my naivety, and I would say, secondly, the unfortunate dynamics between myself and the academics who I worked with and my supervisors. I think there were definitely institutional things, such as, for instance, my interests, which are primarily in Western European political thought and economy. So basically everything to do with dead white misogynistic men, I am absolutely fascinated in and want to study and want to read. My final year dissertation was about Thomas Hobbes and St. Augustine. I have Thomas Hobbes, Baruch Spinoza, Dickens and Dostoevsky, or pictures of them hanging above my bed. I don't know what that means or what that does for me, but they're there, seemingly watching over me. Yeah, and I think that definitely contributed to the way that I was treated by the academic staff. I did not fit into the stereotype of what a student of colour at this particular university was meant to be. Academics were very much used to and very much expecting that anybody who was a person of colour wanted to change everything and wasn't at all interested in these things. And as a consequence, in all of my seminars and all of my one-on-one supervisions and group supervisions, what have you, I was, the one black person. And it's not necessarily because there weren't there were lots of black people and people of colour at Cambridge, but in terms of my interests, which were very, very much attended by your very stereotypical dark academia looking individual from a Donna Tartt novel, I definitely did not fit that. I wouldn't call my encounters with these academics racist, but I am quite sure that if I wasn't black, their response to me would have been very different. University was very interesting. I think I went into university with a very idealized notion that the university was a place where meritocracy would be realized, where in fact all the hard work that I had put into studying and cultivating intelligence and all of that was suddenly going to pay off. And that idea was very appealing, and it seemed viable to me because I had gone up to the college which I ended up in. I'd done the interviews, I'd done the exams, the assessments, everything. I'd done all of that, and so I'd earned my way there. And then I got approved for a student loan, and so I thought, yes, even though I don't have the money, even though I don't have the background, even though I don't have the cultural experience, even though I've never seen Europe, I've never gone to Rome or to Athens in order to actually really cultivate my love and adoration for these thinkers and for these civilizations, I'm still going to this university, to this incredible university. In my first year, I definitely lived in that illusion, but then things got real, and I think that is something that a lot of people experience. Unfortunately, since my second year, I've been on antidepressants. I have attempted on one occasion, and it's not all to do with university. I think it was just everything to do with my life, sort of, and realizing that I was alone. And also the thing is that I had no support, and I was living, because of my situation of being fostered, then adopted, then fostered again, I lived at my university. I stayed at university the whole time. It was very lonely as well, because at Cambridge we have very short terms. Our terms are 6 weeks, and then we have weeks and weeks of holiday. Our summer is so long, so long. I'm so sorry, Angela. This has just gone really down the scenic route, but in short, yes, I studied at university, and my experience was not a good one. But the one thing I can say for university is that you will meet incredible people. I was very fortunate because I went to university and I didn't expect to make friends because I had not made friends in the UK at all. And I had come to a sort of understanding with myself that people don't like me in this neck of the woods. I met the most amazing individuals who have now become friends, who will be lifelong friends. Yes, there's 6 people, 6 incredible people. Some of them I haven't told that I have a YouTube channel yet. I haven't, I will admit, but yes. So if they ever do come across this, know that I'm talking about you, Susanna, Bijol, little one, Jessie, Rico, Emma, and Sarah. You guys are incredible. Thank you very much. Celestial Carl, it's a brilliant name. Where do you live now, and what other countries have you lived in? Which is your favorite place to reside, and do you imagine moving somewhere else? And I'll answer this in conjunction with, do you miss where you come from, which is South Africa. I lived in South Africa from when I was a zygote to age 16. I then unexpectedly, after a day's notice, moved to the United Kingdom, and I have lived here ever since. It's not that there's anything specifically wrong with the UK, but I think that there is a world out there, and that there is a world out there that I can find more fulfillment in. I think I've generally just had very negative experiences, but I don't want to generalize, because I think that this is a very diverse country with many different people, many different cultures. And my living in England, I have only ever lived in the south of England. So my aim at this point in my life is to move to the north of England, and I want to see if I find things better up there. I think I'm definitely going to find prices a lot better up there. I'd say for the past 3 years I've wanted to live in Russia. I have very much wanted to live in Russia. Yes, I am learning Russian very slowly. I find it to be a very fascinating and beautiful language. And I love Russian films, I love Russian literature. I am very intrigued by Russian history and culture, and also contemporary Russian politics, so yes. But I think at this point in time, my only aim is to live in the north of England. Fragile, handle with care. Goodness, people have intriguing names. I'm very impressed. Gosh, I thought I was good with Kidology, but alas, I have been outkidded. On one of your videos, you mentioned listening to Enya. Which other musicians do you listen to? I love talking about music. This is a difficult one to answer because I quite literally, and I mean it literally, I love every single genre of music out there. Tell me a genre of music that you think I wouldn't like, and I can disprove you like that. I'm currently very, very obsessed with modern Polish indie. 80s music is just, oh my goodness. New Order, Ultraviolence is so magnifique. I love 80s music videos. I love the androgynous fashion, and I just love how it's like androgyny, but not just women dressing ambiguously, but men as well. And it's just so, a music video that sort of sums up the 80s for me is Dead or Alive. That's the way I like it. It's just seeing Pete Burns just in this black leotard, just, you know, just shaking that little ass of his, and just these women who look like Greek gods just posing whilst he does his little delicate dances around there. It's just absolutely majestic. If that is the last thing that I see before I die, I will die happy. It's glorious. In terms of like English musicians or English speaking musicians, at the moment I'm listening mainly to Angel Olsen's new album, her 80s inspired album of 80s covers. I'm also listening to, as the thumbnail of this video suggests, St. Vincent. I am very invested, heavily invested in Daddy's Home. I also love musicals, so I listen to a lot of musical numbers. I've got a very thorough knowledge of musicals. I'd say at the moment I'm primarily listening to Fiddler on the Roof, Joseph and his Technicolor Dreamcoat, West Side Story, and The Sound of Music, and Yentl. I'm listening to a lot of Yentl. Sort of makes me cry a bit, but yes, I am listening to a lot of that. Yes, this is a bit embarrassing. I very enjoy the original Barbie movies. I can't believe I'm admitting that. I really love the music from Barbie in the Princess and the Pauper film. I love that villain song, How Can I Refuse? Brilliant song.
Well, how could I refuse? Raise every glass and rouse every cheer. All hail me.
It touches my soul even to this day. Barbie as Island Princess I Need to Know. Oh my gosh, that song.
Where is the land I come from?
I could just see, just as soon as I said Barbie, just people unsubscribe. What are your favorite films, books, etc.? And any guilty pleasures? Right. At the moment, I'm very invested in Japanese pink films, which are incredibly explicit and very misogynistic and violent, but they have a very intriguing aesthetic to them, which sucks you in but also repulses you at the same time. The Japanese pink film industry was dominated by a woman, so that was a bit of a mind thing. I also very much enjoy horror. I'm very, very excited about this new sort of art horror that is really, I wouldn't say it's new, but I think now it's being taken a bit more seriously. I would say definitely Midsummer is one of my favorite films. I love almost every single Meryl Streep film ever made. I have watched every single Meryl Streep film ever made. I can list them all. I'm not above watching absolute trash. Yes. I wouldn't say I have a favorite film, but I am definitely, I enjoy foreign films. And I also enjoy films that portray historical figures, particularly writers. And if they do it sensitively, not necessarily accurately by chronologically, but if I can see the effort's being put into them, I will definitely appreciate them. So for instance, about a year ago, I watched a film called Violette about the French author Violette Leduc, who was in love for a time with Simone de Beauvoir. And I would say that film definitely left a very positive impression on me. If I had a choice of one film that I could watch for the rest of my life, it would be There Will Be Blood. Okay, sorry about the lighting changing, it's getting a bit dark outside. Any guilty pleasures? Well, following the life, the trials and tribulations of Amberlynn Reid on YouTube is one such pleasure. I do very much enjoy following the various YouTube communities, what they're getting up to, what they are interested in, who they're cancelling and why. On part one of one of your shorts where you mentioned a celebrity crush that you were into and whose name you wanted the viewer to guess but would reveal in part two, what happened to that video? Right, a little disclaimer for my channel. If I put out a part one, it is very likely that I will not put out a part two. Actually, this is a very bad thing to say considering. Don't worry, I will have definitely, I'm having a part two of this. Oh my gosh, somebody guessed. Oh my gosh, well done. They guessed correctly. It's Meryl Streep. Sana Serena. Lovely name nonetheless. Right, what's your process to research and edit? Right, it's a very long one. Unfortunately, I'm not very good at time management. As I said, I'm a very patient person, so that means that I'm quite willing to sit in my room researching and writing just one paragraph for days on end. Time is not really a concept to me, regrettably. I will sort of come up with ideas based on things that I've read, but also I think watching YouTube and also just busy analysing different communities, I come up with ideas. I get some key texts that I want to reference and also some key articles that I also want to focus on. Now my aim with my script is for it to be no more than 1,000 words. That never happens. I'll print it out at a printing place and then I'll come back to my room, I'll annotate it by hand, things that I want to say out loud to a camera, things that I want to voice over, things that I want to read, and I'll divide it, sort of my script, into those three broad sections. From there, I will then just sit and go through it. I will favorite parts of it which I like, parts of it which I don't like, I will then discard and put it onto my main timeline. Then I will do the voiceovers, and that's a lot easier. That doesn't take lots of time at all. Then I'll sort of start adding in the little intricacies, the little niceties. Only at the end do I add the music. I know a lot of people have a problem with my music, and I am I am terribly sorry. I genuinely am sorry. But it is the one thing that I look forward to. Anyway, thank you so much for your questions. I sort of divided all of the questions. So this part is about sort of the very more personal, laid back questions that people asked. And my next video is going to be far more on topic with the niche and ambiance of my channel, focusing on the more serious questions that you ask. So if I didn't answer your questions in this video, rest assured I will most definitely 100% be sure that I will be answering your question in my next one. But I just sort of saw it as more of a serious, broader question than as one that related to me. Oh goodness, I've forgotten to tell you my name. Yes, somebody did ask, in fact, what they should call me. They wanted to know whether I should be called Kid. They thought it was very condescending, but I don't think it's condescending. I'm quite happy to be called Kid or Kiddie. I really do not get offended by whatever people call me. In the UK, people have not been able to pronounce my name at all, and a consequence of that is that in order to make it easier for everybody else, I just let people call me Z. As long as I know that you're talking to me or addressing me, that's fine. You can call me Pumpkin. But my real name is Zandile, and it's a South African name. I'm not entirely sure what it means. I really do apologize. It was not intentional. I definitely am not going for this mysterious corpse husband vibe, you know, corpse bride. And in my next video, I'll be talking about university. I'll be talking about my job, in which I am now, and for the last 3 years have been working as a cashier in a superstore, why that is, and also about sort of more serious things like capitalism, neoliberalism, education in general, and yes, so I hope you're ready for that, and take care. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.